Hello everyone and welcome back to our reading of Atlantis. Today's chapter, Edgar Cayce's Atlantis. Let's get started. Since the 19th century, Atlantis has attracted the interest of psychics, people who seem to be in touch with a supernatural source of knowledge. This knowledge may come from the spirit world, unusually strong intuition, ESP, or memories of past lives. Although the idea of people having psychic powers is controversial, there does seem to be growing evidence that there are people who can see the past and even retrieve missing pieces of the prehistoric jigsaw puzzle. With the 1980s came a new surge of interest in non-traditional spiritualism, in terms like reincarnation, past lives, karma, and channeling are heard more and more often. Is it possible that we have all lived other lives in other times and places, even on other planets? Can we get in touch with the spirit world? Although psychics' claims about Atlantis can be neither proven nor disproven without any hard evidence, psychic phenomena has become more and more accepted as a possibility, and even as a probability. If there are true psychics acting as channels for spirits, that is, acting as conduits or intermediaries for communication between the spirit world and the physical world, then we do have sources of information about Atlantis besides Plato. Reincarnation. Edgar Cayce was one of the world's best-known psychics. He gave psychic readings for almost 40 years, and many of them refer to Atlantis. Cayce claimed to have access to a body of knowledge called the Akashic Record. The Akashic Record is every sound and thought any individual has ever had since time began. Cayce claimed to be able to read the records of the universe. He said he was reading the subconscious minds of people, both living and dead. Cayce told people about their past incarnations, their past lives. The belief that each of us has lived other lifetimes is called reincarnation. It is a common belief in Eastern religions. It is believed that the soul does not die when the body does. Instead, it is reborn in another human form. Problems that have not been worked out in other lifetimes will continue in future lives until they are finally resolved. It is also thought that people we are close to in this lifetime are probably the souls of people we were familiar with in previous lives. Have you ever become friends with someone right away the first time you met? Perhaps you have a strong connection from past lives together. Edgar Cayce, the Sleeping Prophet. Edgar Cayce was born in Hopkinsville, Kentucky on March 18, 1877. He was a highly religious Christian man, but not well educated. He left school after the 7th grade in order to work. As a little boy, Cayce had reported to his parents that he could speak to dead relatives. His parents said he had too active an imagination. It wasn't until he was a young man that his psychic abilities came to public attention. He developed a gradual paralysis in his throat. No doctor could determine the physical cause. Cayce asked a friend to help him enter a hypnotic sleep. He often did this as a child in order to memorize his school lessons. While in the trance, Cayce spoke in a strange voice. The voice suggested a treatment for his ailment. The treatment worked. Then Cayce learned to hypnotize himself. During trances, he seemed to have a thorough knowledge of medicine. His treatments were very effective, but awake he knew nothing about the subject. As a religious man, Cayce struggled with the idea that some spirit had entered his body, but it did not seem to be evil. To the contrary, it seemed to be sensitive and caring. News about Cayce's strange powers spread throughout the country. During his lifetime, he did 14,000 life readings, telling in great detail about the past lives of many individuals. So far, no reasonable explanation has been found for Cayce's abilities. Many people ask, how could this uneducated man have such knowledge even in his subconscious, unless he had access to the knowledge of other people or spirits? Or had Cayce himself lived many times before as a healer? Cayce, the sleeping prophet, was soon being asked questions on a wide range of topics. His spirit entity, the personality that spoke during the trances, responded with observations about past lives. It suggested how these former lives affected a person's mental, physical, and emotional health in this life. Time after time, individuals returned to confirm that information Cayce had given while in a trance was correct. The historical data was researched. His details about other lands and other periods of time proved to be accurate. Archaeologist and writer Geoffrey Goodman stated that Cayce was either a true psychic or the world's best liar. In decades of doing life readings, his information was never inconsistent. He never contradicted himself. Information given in readings a month, a year, or even 10 years apart was consistent. Cayce on Atlantis. Cayce described an extraordinary history of Atlantis. He presented the Atlanteans as a people advanced in science and technology, but degenerate in ethics. The location Cayce cited for Atlantis was similar to Plato's. In a 1932 reading, published in Edgar Cayce on Atlantis, he says the position the continent of Atlantis occupied is between the Gulf of Mexico on the one hand and the Mediterranean on the other. He added, evidence of this lost civilization is to be found in the Pyrenees, Morocco, British Honduras, Yucatan, and America. There are some protruding portions that must have at one time or another been a portion of this great continent. The British West Indies or Bahamas are a portion of same that may be seen in the present. But while Plato described the land, Cayce's readings concentrated on the people and their accomplishments. Cayce's Atlantis readings refer to 3 different periods and 3 destructions. The First Age, human beings. According to Edgar Cayce, spirits existed on Earth many millions of years ago. They could enter and leave bodily form at will. Gradually, as they began to enjoy the pleasures of the world, they became trapped in various physical forms in the material world. Some of them became human, while others became strange creatures or entities unknown to us today. Humanity, said Cayce, took on the physical form that we have today about 10.5 million years ago. Is there any evidence to back up this claim? When Cayce gave that reading in 1925, the idea was considered outrageous, but Cayce's date for the origin of the human race may yet prove accurate. Scientists continue to uncover evidence that shows humanity to be older than previously believed. Fossil findings in the past 60 years have continued to push the history of the human race farther and farther back in time. Current theory says that the first human-like creature existed at least 12 million years ago. Our species, Homo sapiens, appeared 50,000 to 500,000 years ago. Is it only a matter of time before science discovers that what Cayce reported is true? Is it possible that while science searches for physical proof, psychics have access to another way of knowing about the past? Atlantis, the cradle of civilization. At any rate, Cayce said that Atlantis was the home of the first civilization. However, as humans became more and more entrenched in their material form, they seemed to forget their divine origins. A rift grew between two groups of humans. Those Cayce called the children of the law of one continued to develop and respect the divine spiritual part of themselves. The others, the sons of Belial, became greedy, materialistic, and immoral. The sons of Belial mingled and even mated with the strange entities and the animals that lived among them. This mating produced bizarre creatures, things, as Cayce called them. If Cayce's visions were true, might these creatures have been the real basis for the classic myths about centaurs, satyrs, minotaurs, and other part human, part animal beings? After an unknown period of time, the monstrosities and animals that were a result of the corruption of the sons of Belial became a serious threat to the people of Atlantis and the other continents. Huge birds and large carnivorous animals, possibly dinosaurs, attacked from the skies and on land. Several of Cayce's readings speak of the Atlanteans gathering together with other nations to find a way to rid the continents of the large animals that threaten them all. Cayce said this meeting occurred in 722 BC. By this time, the Atlanteans were advanced technologically. Cayce's readings tell of machines that could speed through the air and through the water. The Atlanteans were also able to harness the forces of nature for energy and communication. They had learned how to generate power from crystals. They may even have known how to generate energy from atoms. Armed with their great knowledge, they were able to build explosives to destroy the large animals. One reading spoke of a laser-like death ray. Remember, Cayce described these things in 1933. Was he talking about the laser and the atomic bomb decades before they were developed by scientists? It was just such destructive technology that the Atlanteans used to destroy the great animals. These explosions, however, also set off volcanic eruptions that changed the Earth's geography. According to Cayce, up to this time Earth had two major landmasses, Atlantis and Lemuria, another lost continent. The explosions caused the southern part of Atlantis to drop into the Sargasso Sea, the shallow, reedy waters surrounding Bermuda. The remains of Atlantis broke into several large islands, and Lemuria began sinking into the sea. One of Cayce's readings even state that the explosions caused the Earth to shift on its axis and the North and South poles to come into their present positions. This first destruction of Atlantis happened close to 5722 BC. As a result of this destruction, many Atlanteans migrated to other lands. They carried with them to their new lands the memories of their past place and that ideal time. For this reason, says Cayce, there is some form of a Garden of Eden legend in many areas of the world. The second period, 50,000 to 28,000 BC. Cayce's second Atlantean period brought even greater technological development. Communications and transportation became more and more sophisticated. Cayce mentioned in a reading on January 23, 1941, that there were machines that not only sailed in the air, but in other elements also. On September 6, 1928, he described destructive forces, or as he called them, the night side of life. His son, Edgar Cayce, suggests that he was referring to nuclear power. Cayce also described other Atlantean inventions: elevators, television, radio, and radar devices. Cayce's readings also told of the development of electrical machinery, radiant heating, chemistry, X-rays, and overcoming gravity. He gave detailed explanations of the technology of many of these inventions of the Atlanteans. Much of what Cayce described must have sounded quite far-fetched to his listeners in the 1930s, but he might just as well have been describing the present-day United States as the legendary Atlantis of 10,000 to 50,000 years ago. This second period also was one of great discord over whether to follow the guidance of the children of the Law of One or the lifestyle of the sons of Belial. Much of the discord has to do with treatment of the things, or lower class beings. According to Edgar Cayce, author of Edgar Cayce on Atlantis, the things were treated like robots, or slaves. The sons of Belial wanted to continue to use the things for menial work. The children of the Law of One wanted to help the things reclaim their humanness. Psychic power. The Atlanteans had reached a very high level of psychic power. They were able to leave their own bodies through meditation. They understood the spiritual and natural laws of the universe. They were able to harness the power of plants and minerals. They understood the meaning of the stars and their influences. The children of the Law of One built temples and through powers unknown today were able to treat the things by removing their tails, feathers, rings, scales, and claws. With some form of electrical impulse, they were also able to heal their minds. The sons of Belial also had psychic powers and knowledge of how to manipulate the natural laws. They used their awesome powers for destructive purposes. There was disagreement over the use of these powers and over the explosive devices and other scientific discoveries. The sons of Belial used their knowledge for selfish gain, while the children of the Law of One used their knowledge for healing the earth and its inhabitants. The second destruction, the Great Flood. Gradually, as the civilization of Atlantis advanced technologically and materially, Cayce reported that it continued to degenerate spiritually. Little Robinson, in Edgar Cayce's Story of the Origin and Destiny of Man, writes, "There was a deteriorating of the physical and spiritual bodies, just as there was a wasting away of the mountains and valleys into the sea." Around 28,000 BC, There was a period of tremendous storms with volcanic explosions and great flooding. It is not clear whether the Atlanteans and their discord were responsible for this occurrence or if it was a natural disaster. Cayce stated that this was the great flood of Noah described in the Bible. Some people, perhaps through their psychic powers, knew of the coming destruction. Before this second catastrophe, there was a major Atlantean migration to other lands, especially to the Americas. The second destruction split Atlantis into smaller islands, with much of its land disappearing into the sea forever. Many people died, many fled, but eventually the land quieted down. Order was re-established among the people. However, the discord soon resumed. The children of the Law of One and the sons of Belial continued to battle each other. Scientific achievements were unsurpassed, but the moral base continued to deteriorate. The final destruction, 10,000 BC. Particularly important to the fate of Atlantis were the great crystals or firestones. The firestones were devices for producing power. The sun's light was concentrated through a reflective stone or crystal, which was capped with a special mechanism. The firestones were housed in domed buildings, and a portion of the roof could be rolled back to capture the sun's energy. The crystals could be used to provide power for the cities, to guide aircraft in the dark, and to heal the human body. In the hands of the sons of Belial, however, the great crystals became instruments of torture and punishment. The conflict between the children of the Law of One and the sons of Belial increased. Violence spread across the land. Many people left for safer places. Eventually, the power in the firestones accidentally turned up too high, brought the final destruction to Atlantis. According to Little Robinson, gigantic land upheavals shook the foundations of the earth. Great islands crumbled into the sea and were inundated. Only scattered mountain peaks remained to mark the sunken graves. Cayce's proof. Is that the end of it as far as Cayce was concerned? Must we simply take his word for it? Is there any proof that Atlantis did exist? Edgar Cayce predicted that there would be some remnants of Atlantis rising out of the water near Bimini in the late 1960s or early 1970s. We'll look at that claim later on, but there may be another surer proof of Atlantis. Cayce's life readings often refer to the historical records of Atlantis. He also repeatedly said that those who left Atlantis took records and knowledge with them. For several hundred years before the final destruction, he stated large groups of Atlanteans left their homeland for Egypt, Portugal, France, and Spain to the east and the Americas to the west. These people seemed to know that their land was about to be destroyed. They took all manner of written records of Atlantis' advanced civilization with them. Cayce's readings dealt heavily with the Atlanteans who fled to Egypt. There, the Atlanteans contributed their superior knowledge to help the Egyptians improve their farming, transportation, arts, metalworking, and building. They also helped the Egyptians construct such wonders as the mighty pyramids of Giza. Cayce said that the Atlanteans buried the extensive writings from their home country in a marvelous house of records, located near the Great Sphinx at Giza. Cayce followers and Atlantists, people who try to prove the existence of Atlantis, hope that the House of Records will soon be discovered. It will prove not only that Atlantis existed, but also that Cayce's psychic powers were very real. Cayce also said that a set of records is buried somewhere in the Yucatan in Mexico, and a third set was buried in the sea with Atlantis itself. Cayce believed that portion of Atlantis would one day rise again. These records would reveal the history of Atlantis and of human beginnings. It would also prove Atlantis' vast knowledge of the universal laws. Unfortunately, none of these records has yet been found. What does Cayce's story of Atlantis mean to us? If Cayce was right about Atlantis, then his words mean our theories about humankind's pasts are wrong. It means that our modern world is not the first to have reached today's advanced scientific and technological level. It may mean that there have been even more advanced civilizations before ours. But more importantly, if Cayce is right about Atlantis, then his words have an important bearing on the future of the Earth. For Cayce warned that there is a lesson in Atlantis' destruction. The similarities between Atlantis and modern societies, especially the United States, are startling. Cayce's son suggests that the Death Ray and the Great Crystals could be lasers and atomic power plants. We have made great strides in less than a century. We are perched at the edge. Our discoveries can be used for good or for destruction. We are constantly making decisions about the moral uses of our new technologies. Cayce and other psychics say that many souls from lost Atlantis are now reincarnating in the United States and other technologically advanced nations. It is for this very reason that there have been such giant strides in technology. These souls bring that information with them, but they also bring the old spiritual issues with them too. Did they learn from their destruction thousands of years ago? Or are the sons of Belial and the children of the Law of One still at war? Let's investigate. Like Plato's story, Cayce's version has no hard evidence to back it up. Geologists say no such land mass could have existed in the Atlantic, and historians and anthropologists say civilizations and empires did not exist 10,000 years ago, but our beginnings remain an unsolved mystery. And, as you'll see in coming chapters, the Atlantis story just might explain some very puzzling finds that current theories can't explain. Oh, Edgar Cayce, you're a liar or mad as Ed Gein. Anyway, that's all for today. I'll see you next time. See ya!